course, we're not talking about hunting rifles. We're talking about SHTF or battle rifles, if you will. Something that is inherently put together for one purpose, and that's for engaging a two-legged creature, not a four. Like out here in these woods, you're guaranteed you're not going to see jack past 75 meters. Rifle selection should be based off of the terrain that you are in. You can't see 300 meters here. I was assured that my experience and conclusions would be different if I was just somewhere else. Top man, you know, in your mountains and in your city, you may not be able to see very far, but come out to us out west. Maybe you're thinking, Stoke, it's not always up in the mountains with all that vegetation around you. Look at all this. I can see forever. So nothing but wide open plains. Being able to see as far as humanly possible. There's no obstruction. 300 meters to the IHOP. So we'll cheat, right? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. 421 meters. Trying to take something out here, God forbid, up on that next ridge line, is certainly a long range shot. How far can you actually see? You can imagine trying to find an 8x8 target that's not directly behind a piece of cover. And they start shooting. The problem, of course, is nobody stands upright to get into a firefight at long range. Try to find some cover and or concealment. Of course, you can't see very far because you're down in the stinking prone. Here we got grass that's in the way. Other places you may have micro or some macro terrain features. You don't need a $5,000 rifle to take a 0 out to 300 yards. What may or may not make a good battle rifle. Why is this one my preferred choice? Hey, let's get out and shoot some shit. Effective SHTF battle rifle, chambered in 5.56. It's probably shoulder fired, semi-automatic, and takes a magazine that holds probably 30 rounds. Inherently best designed for short 0 to 300 yards to medium 300 to 500 yards. Is not something that needs to cost a ton of money, and it's something that probably needs to be more effective at close ranges than medium or long range shots. Not least of which is, you know, if you're out here, it can be a little bit harder depending on your distance to determine direction. But on that note, like, how far can you actually see out in the woods? Even when you're out in the wide open plains of a lot of the flyover states, just like we're at right now, the plains. Of course, you can see out here, that's probably 500 meters to this next ridge line up over here, probably closer to 1,000 up over here. And if you look at other places out here, which I did, you can see 1,000, 2,000 meters, sometimes at the most. What would it take to actually be in a freaking gunfight in that scenario? Well, now you have to define what kind of person do you want to be in that contested environment, right? Does that make sense? So hear me out here. Can you see a target out to 300 yards? Yes. Can you see it out to 500 yards? Yes. Can you see a target that is in contrast with its environment further? Yes. Does movement impact that? Yes. Truth is, if I wanted to take a shot over in that direction, yeah, I probably need something different than what I'm running with. But realistically, if I want to shoot 500 yards in that direction, 1,000 yards in this direction, I'm shooting over 5, 10, 15 dudes' properties, which means I got to go over in that direction and take care of whatever it is that I just shot. It's not very practical. And then count up dollar for dollar, pound for pound, how much that shot actually cost you. So if you're running a $2,000, if you're running a $1,000 rifle and a $2,000 scope, that's some pricey meat. But hey, this is just me thinking out loud. I don't even care if you're hunting. Nobody's going to shoot from this ridge line to that ridge line unless they have one additional item in their kit bag. I don't care how much meat we're talking about. Unless you're just after a skull and a rat. Because now you gotta walk down, up, over, across the river, and back up. And then you gotta get it back over here, right? Of course, we're not talking about hunting rifles. We're talking about SHTF or battle rifles, if you will. Something that is inherently put together for one purpose, and that's for engaging a two-legged creature, not a four. See out here, yes, you can see a ways off, but it's only because we're thinking about the macro and not the micro. "50 meters away. That's all it takes to be deadly." It's like all the rest of your gear is probably down in your mom's basement. So how are you going to get to it? If it sparks off, how are you going to get to your stuff? You don't have your stuff because you're thinking, well, I got to get back to my mom's basement. Or I can't engage long range because I don't have my long range rifle. Or I can't engage short range because I got my deer rifle. Maybe you have positive identification. You know that they're bad guys over there. And I could argue, and you could argue, that the best place as far as distance is concerned to engage from would be long range, right? Is the max capability of your weapon, specifically of your most casualty producing weapon, right? Now, a bolt fired weapon is not going to be the most casualty producing weapon on the market, right? We know this. It's probably something that's going to be magazine fed, gas powered, shoulder fired, semi-automatic. Probably has something like 30 rounds in magazine. First off, like if you go watch any of the big names, like they're all using big dollar products. $2,000-3,000 rifles and carbines, and then $2,000 freaking optics, and probably $2,000 worth of Hooyah gear that's attached to it. You don't need a $5,000 rifle to take a 50-meter shot. Let's say I want to engage. Is it still worth it? You can see 500 meters across, but can you see? Only if somebody was stationary would I attempt to make that shot. If there was any movement, I would need to exercise some patience, because I would dare say it would be better to have shot 10,000 rounds and have 1,000 rounds left over than to have shot 1,000 rounds and to have 10,000 in your cache. I'd have to account for some elevation change going up. And I'd have to consider that as soon as I fired my shot, my first shot, my location is now exposed. Where they did not know that I was, they know that where I'm at now, and odds are if they're truly bad guys, they also have weapons and can return fire. So what are they going to do as soon as the shot rings out? Well, now they're going to be in the defense. We're going to be there. We're going to put them in the same boat that we found ourselves in when we were receiving fire from 1,500 yards away. They're going to seek cover. Say, well, Stoke, out in the Mountain West, you can see forever. Yes, if there's movement, if there's contrast, but what happens when somebody gets behind some cover? What if they have some concealment? You're going to be able to see them then? Like, scopes aren't magic, right? Too many times, we can't see can't see the trees through the forest, right? It works both ways. Sometimes we can't see the forest through the trees. In this case, we can't see the micro because all we see is this macro opening. All we see is big, wide open spaces. And so that takes away our ability to see the micro, to see the crevices, and to even know why those steep draws are there in the first place. Or to be able to see the things that we can't see, right? To deduce the things that we can't see. Whether it's actual cover, whether it's concealment. Just because you think that you can see forever doesn't mean that you can actually see forever. As soon as somebody drops down into a prone position, into a kneeling position, into a crouching position, you're not going to see anything up there. Again, unless you have, a super duper expensive scope, which again I would argue is great, well and good for hunting, well and good to be maybe over your door at your homestead, not down in your mom's basement where you only take it out and shoot once a year. But because you're narrow, because your view is so narrow because of your optic, now you're limited and you're going to be forcing yourself to scan, and you got your figure eights going and you're looking for movement. And even with a great scope, you may not be able to see it, and the thermal scope's not going to do you jack unless they're out in the open and they're moving. I don't know, team, there's a lot to consider. You don't have to go spend $2,500 to get the most Gucci base weapon platform system that you can find, and then start adding an oobly god-awful amount of money. Think about the tools that you need in order to get after the things that you want to get after. Buy the right tool. Buy a good tool. If you're sitting at a house and your homestead and you're considering the wide open views that you have, then having a weapon staged at the house that's capable of taking those long range shots is certainly something to consider and to work around. But should that be your go-to everyday carry battle / SHTF rifle? And I would submit that the answer is no for a couple reasons. One, weight. Two, cost per fire, right? Every time you pull the trigger, how much does that cost? Availability of rounds and ammunition. Magazines and the amount of ammunition that you can physically carry. All kinds of considerations. Let's talk about these two considerations, offense and defense. Let's suppose, for example, for the defensive operation, because offense, man, we got to talk about this and what kind of people we want to be. Let's say I'm receiving fire and it's coming from somewhere over here, right? So not this little spur that comes down, but way up over on the top. Maybe there's somebody by this outcropping that's up there. I hear a shot ring out. Maybe I hear something hit. And I look over. Of course, the first thing I may do is try to find some cover. So if I go dart behind this bush right here, if I tuck down in and find some shrubbery, some rocks, to at least get some concealment, if not some cover. Am I going to be able to see up there? The answer is no, because I need to be able to see, right? Because nobody gets into a firefight standing up at long range, right? You're in the prone, you're in the kneeling. Are they going to be able to see me? No. They may have been able to see my last movement, and that's the one thing that's going to probably give you away is movement. Are they going to be able to effectively engage? Are they going to have precision in their shooting? This is another good reason not to advocate something like a 7mm Magnum is a SHTF rifle. Because yes, you can engage, 500, 600, 700 meters pretty effectively. But how many rounds is it going to take for you to be able to effectively engage 800 meters or 1,000 meters? So you've deduced what your range is, you've estimated it. Are you going to engage? And I would dare say that the answer is not only no, but hell no. Why? Because that sound after your movement is going to give your current location away, right? You just got some cover and concealment. You do something again, and they already had a bead on you once. They may get you again. So is it worth engaging long range in a defensive? In an example like this, man, if you're at your homestead, then maybe a different story, right? But out here, in this particular scenario that we're talking about, physical location that we're talking about, like being away from the homestead, the answer is probably no, because I can cut out, I can bug up this draw, hop up to the next ridge, cut over, I can scoot down, and nobody's gonna be any wiser because I have terrain features between where I'm at and where I'm shooting from. You're like, Stoke, man, it's not always like that. Maybe it's out wide in the open. We get caught up into thinking, well, how far can I see? Well, if I look out, man, I can see the horizon. I can see forever. But can you actually see that far to engage a target? Well, obviously you can't do it here, and so you're not gonna be able to do it pretty much anywhere else that you're at. How about offensive operations? Now you have to define what kind of person do you want to be in that contested environment, right? Does that make sense? So hear me out here. Can you see a target out to 300 yards? Yes. Can you see it out to 500 yards? Yes. Can you see a target that is in contrast with its environment further? Yes. Does movement impact that? Yes. But why are you engaging that far? Because the likelihood of somebody engaging you from that distance is slim to nil. So break contact. 2, can you positively identify a target if they are not engaging you, right? Now, why are you engaging people? Well, if you go back to that question, what kind of person do you want to be? If you want to be the raider, if you want to be the person who's out there pillaging and destroying things that you may perceive to be a threat, which may or may not be, then you and I are not in common. I would submit to you that you need to probably think about how I can be the good guy. And being the good guy is going to be engaging on targets that we have positive identification of, that are demonstrating deadly force against us or those around us, right? If they're not demonstrating deadly force, then using deadly force may not be the right option. And even in the most contested environments. Maybe you see on this next ridge line up over here that there's an encampment, and you suspect that they're raiders. Or you just want to go raid their shit, right? That's so many people's plan if it hits the fan, is I'm just going to take what everybody else has been. Team, I appreciate you guys. I'm sincerely looking forward to seeing your thoughts and your comments down below as we all attempt to master our craft and develop our tactical virtue. Make sure you do leave some comments about what is the best SHTF rifle. Does terrain actually dictate your weapon selection? And anything else that you got. We'll keep this conversation rolling. So let me hear it, team. I appreciate you guys. Until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked. Team, if you want to master your craft and develop your tactical virtue, Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so that you can stay up to date with future content. Consider becoming a channel member. It's going to give you exclusive access to content not available to anybody else. I appreciate you guys. Until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay safe.
We know you're out there! Come to my voice!